shut up. If you've got complaints, then get out. Seeing a loser like you just pisses me off. You're an eyesore.
Suddenly, Kevin grabbed the picture of my late mom that was displayed in my room and threw it to the floor with all his might. This had gone way too far, and I finally snapped. Kevin, enough is enough. That's. It was my cherished photo, something I had held dear for years. The plastic frame of the photo stand was broken into a miserable shape. What did I ever do to deserve this? Why do I have to endure such treatment? I had reached my limit. Fine, I'll leave. I can't stay here anymore. I want to leave right now. That was how I honestly felt.
Finally ready to leave? Make sure you take everything and don't leave a trace. And don't ever come back.
Fine, I'll leave just like you wanted. You'll regret it. The next day, even though I had left just as Kevin wanted, I received an unexpected call from him. Over the phone, his voice was shaking with agitation. That's right. Kevin had been clueless until now. When I revealed an important secret to him, he started trembling uncontrollably, almost comically. My name is Jessica. Right after I graduated from high school, I joined a local internet advertising company. However, the video editing work that I had originally been doing as a side job took off, and now at 30, I've gone independent as a freelance video editor. I lost my mom in an accident when I was young. The sudden loss of my mom was a really tough experience for me as a child. After my mom passed away, it was just me and my dad. I was still in elementary school at the time, so my dad and I worked together to take care of things around the house. My dad got really busy with his work after my mom died, so he didn't have much time for me. Since my grandparents had passed away early on, there wasn't really anyone around I could depend on, and I wasn't allowed to rely on anyone or be coddled. I had no choice but to fend for myself. Growing up, I sometimes found myself jealous of my friends who had a different life than mine. After my mom passed away, there were nights when I cried alone in my pillow. Although I had a lonely childhood, I was fortunate to have good friends, and my school days were busy but full of fun. After graduating from high school, I got a job at a local company and entered the working world. Then one day, out of the blue, my dad told me he was getting remarried. The woman he introduced me to was much younger than him and quite flashy. She was nothing like my late mom. She didn't dress like a typical mom and had a strong, overwhelming perfume. Even though there had been signs of women in my dad's life before, he had never introduced any of them to me. Maybe he thought now that I was an adult, his parenting duties were over, and he was ready to start a new chapter. The woman he was remarrying had also been married before and had a son. Her son, Kevin, was 9 years younger than me and still a student. Even though I had some worries about having a younger stepbrother, deep down, I was kind of excited about having a new family after so many years of it just being my dad and me.
Jessica, I'm looking forward to getting to know you.
Sarah, my dad's new wife, spoke to me with a slightly stiff expression that looked like a forced smile. I figured they must have met at one of the pubs my dad often went to. To be honest, I thought my dad had terrible taste in women. Kevin, her son, just glared at me and didn't say a word. At the time, I brushed it off, thinking it was just teenage moodiness. And so, our life as a family of 4 began. Not long after my mom passed away, my dad stopped doing housework altogether, and from that point on, I handled all the chores by myself. When he got remarried, I hoped that my workload at home might ease up a bit, but those hopes were quickly shattered. Sarah didn't do any housework at all, and instead of cooking for just the 2 of us, I now had to prepare meals for double the number of people, increasing my burden. Sarah would stay out late every night and often didn't come home until morning, so I barely saw her. At that time, I had just started freelancing, and although I worked from home, I had a heavy workload, which made it even harder to balance work and housework. Meanwhile, from the very beginning of their marriage, my dad and Sarah fought constantly, and their relationship was far from smooth. I often heard their arguments echoing through the house. Everyone could see it wasn't going to work out, and sure enough, just a few months after they got married, Sarah packed up and left. She didn't just leave my dad, she walked out on her own son, Kevin, as well. Normally, this would be unthinkable, but for her, it wasn't surprising at all. Kevin didn't seem too shocked that his mom had left either. Maybe their relationship had always been strained. He never seemed particularly close to her. It's possible that Sarah had planned to leave him behind from the start. Kevin probably understood the kind of person his mom was better than we did. But now, Kevin was facing college entrance, and it was a time when he needed financial support more than ever. We couldn't let him give up on his college dreams because of his mom. So my dad and I decided that we'd cover all of Kevin's education and living expenses and continue living as the three of us. Despite all the challenges, Kevin successfully became a college student. When he got accepted into his school of choice, I was relieved. Once in college, Kevin started talking to me a bit more. Until then, he had never tried to open up or initiate any conversation. But after entering college, he became a little more sociable. However, Kevin's attitude toward me was different. He started acting condescending, looking down on me whenever we interacted. He probably thought I was some kind of jobless freeloader, living off my dad at my age. I tried explaining my work to him several times, but Kevin wasn't interested in listening.
Still at home? Well, I guess someone with just a high school diploma at your age wouldn't be able to find a job. How sad.
Every time he saw me at home, Kevin would criticize me like that. In reality, while I was working, I was also cooking his meals, doing his laundry, and managing everything in the houses. So his remarks made me angry. Kevin, I think you've misunderstood something. I'm not a freeloader. I'm...
Yeah, whatever. Listening to a freeloader is a waste of time. I don't want to hear your excuses.
Every time I tried to explain, Kevin would cut me off like that.
Just so you know, freeloaders don't have the right to an opinion. If you want to speak, try getting into a good college like me and landing a job at a big company. I don't want to be in the same space as you. It feels like your stupidity is contagious. Why don't you grow up and move out soon?
I had lost my mom at a young age, and thinking of my family's situation, I gave up on college and started working right after high school. Even my decision to go freelance was so I could better balance work and housework when my full-time job long hours became too much. I had made all these decisions on my own, and I had no regrets. But hearing Kevin, who knew nothing about my life, say those things made me furious. Though I wanted to snap back, I kept quiet, continuing to handle all of Kevin's household needs as I always had. I had always been in the habit of holding back my feelings, so it became natural for me to suppress them. Even for someone like me, there was one person I could fully open up to and trust completely. That person was my boyfriend, Mike. Mike is 3 years older than me, and we met a few years ago through work. He has a calm personality and is like a source of peace for me, someone who soothes my soul. I shared everything about my family life with Mike. Even with my closest friends, I felt too embarrassed to talk about my family. But with Mike, I could confide in him without holding anything back. Mike always checked on me, asking if there was anything he could do to help. But honestly, just having him listen was more than enough for me. That day, after Kevin had said so many hurtful things and left me feeling emotionally unstable, I went to Mike's place to talk. We hadn't been on a real date in a while because we were both so busy, and we ended up talking for hours, losing track of time. Mike just listened to me silently. He listened with a serious expression, as if it were his own problem, and sometimes he would get even angrier than I did. I love that about Mike. After seeing him for the first time in a while, I stayed longer than I had planned. When I rushed home, Kevin had already gotten back before me.
Hey, where the hell have you been all this time? I'm starving.
Those were the first words out of Kevin's mouth as he yelled at me. Sorry, I was just at Mike's place. I'll hurry and get dinner ready now.
What? A jobless bum like you going out with a guy? Shouldn't you be looking for a job instead of playing around?
As I rushed to start preparing dinner, Kevin, clearly irritated from being hungry, snapped at me more than usual.
Can't believe a guy would even be interested in a loser like you. I bet he's just as much of a bum as you are, right? Losers attract losers. You two are perfect for each other.
Usually, I would hold back, but hearing him insult my boyfriend Mike hit a nerve. Kevin, you need to stop this right now. For the first time, I raised my voice, something I rarely did. Kevin seemed startled for a moment, but quickly regained his tough guy attitude.
Shut up. I told you not to talk back. Just make my dinner.
He spat out those words and stormed upstairs. I took a deep breath to calm myself before getting back to preparing dinner. I just felt calm after meeting Mike. After hearing such awful things, the last thing I wanted to do was make dinner for Kevin. But since I was the only one who did the chores in this house, I forced myself to swallow my anger and started cooking with a blank mind. After finishing up the household chores, I headed to my room to get back to work. With a deadline approaching, I had to make good progress tonight. I thought to myself that it was going to be another sleepless night, so I brewed a hot cup of coffee and walked to my workspace, only to find that my work laptop was missing from my desk. I was sure it had been there this morning. What? Why is it gone? I muttered to myself, and from behind me, I heard laughter.
About time you noticed.
Kevin was watching me, barely holding back his laughter at my reaction.
I threw out your laptop. It was just for playing around, right? That's why you can't get out and find a job. I did you a favor by getting rid of it. You should be thanking me. Now you can finally focus on getting a real job.
Kevin must have done this out of spite while I was downstairs doing chores. This had gone way too far, and I finally snapped. Kevin, enough is enough. That's... Before I could finish, Kevin suddenly grabbed the framed picture of my late mom from my room and threw it to the floor with all his might. It was my cherished photo, something I had held dear for years. The plastic frame of the photo stand was broken into a miserable shape.
Shut up. If you've got complaints, then get out. Seeing a loser like you just pisses me off. You're an eyesore.
Kevin shouted angrily. What did I ever do to deserve this? Why do I have to endure such treatment? I had reached my limit. Fine, I'll leave. I can't stay here anymore. I want to leave right now. That was how I honestly felt.
Finally ready to leave? Make sure you take everything and don't leave a trace. And don't ever come back.
I get it. You'll regret this, though. I answered softly. The next morning, Kevin left for school as if nothing had happened. Once he was gone, I decided to put my plan into action. That evening, I got a call from Kevin. Hello, what's up? I thought you didn't want to hear my voice anymore.
Hey, what the hell is going on here? Everything in the house is gone.
Kevin was yelling, clearly confused over the phone. You see, when Kevin came home from school, he noticed something strange and called me. When he went into the kitchen to grab a drink, the refrigerator was missing. Looking around, he realized the microwave were gone too. In other rooms, he saw that the TV and washing machine were also missing. You told me to leave, so I left. Do you have a problem with that?
You took everything from the house with you? Are you kidding me?
Oh, that. Well, fine. I'll come by tonight, and we can talk about it then. I hung up the phone after saying that. That night, I made my way to the house. As soon as I walked into the houses, Kevin was glaring at me. He must really hate me. Just as we were about to start talking, as if on cue, my dad came home. He'd been out drinking and was a bit tipsy, but sensing the tension between Kevin and me, he awkwardly joined the conversation without saying a word. As soon as the three of us were together, Kevin spoke up first.
Who the hell do you think you are, you lazy bum? You took everything from the house. That's stealing. Aren't you ashamed of yourself?
Kevin continued to lash out at me. That's when I decided it was time to reveal the truth I had been keeping quiet. Stealing? I didn't steal anything. All those appliances were mine. You told me to leave, so I took what was mine. You also said not to leave a trace, so I made sure I didn't.
You bought those? Don't lie to me, you jobless loser. Dad bought all that stuff with his hard-earned money.
Kevin sneered at me, looking at me like I was some pathetic joke. You clearly don't know anything, so let me explain. Dad hasn't worked in almost 2 years. He's unemployed. I'm the one who's been supporting this household. My dad hung his head in shame as he listened to me. Since he's just your stepdad, you probably didn't talk much with him, so you wouldn't have known. But Dad has been pretending to go to work and spending every day drinking at pub from morning till night. That's probably how he met your mom. Ever since he lost his job, he's been dipping into the family's money, claiming he's looking for work. Isn't that right, Dad?
Jessica, you knew?
Dad's voice trembled as he realized I was aware he'd been using our savings. I started investigating when things didn't add up. Dad never found a job, and our bank account kept shrinking. Turns out, Dad was wasting it all on drinking from morning till night. I thought about letting him continue for a bit longer, but I've reached my limit. We're out of money. I can't support this anymore.
So, who's been paying my college tuition?
You've always thought Dad was paying for your education, but the truth is, he hasn't contributed a cent. I've been paying for everything.
Wait, but you're a bum, right? A bum couldn't possibly have that kind of money.
Kevin looked at me, completely baffled. So, who told you I was a bum? I never once said that. I'm actually a freelance video editor now. No one else does the housework here, right? That's why I quit my office job to work from home where it's more efficient. I'm also consulting on creating viral videos now. With the growing demand for social media content, I'm making way more than I ever did as a full-time employee. That's how I've been able to support you and Dad, a jobless man, and a student.
What? I thought you were just a loser.
Kevin was at a loss for words. And by the way, ever since Dad lost his job, this house is under my name. Technically, it's you two who should have left, not me. But since neither a jobless man nor a student would have anywhere to go, I decided to be the one to leave. When I finished speaking, Kevin was so shocked that he froze in place. Dad, too ashamed to face me, looked awkward and uncomfortable. Just then, the doorbell rang. It was Mike, who had come over because he was worried about me.
Sorry, Jessica. I was worried and had to check on you.
Mike said apologetically, but his presence gave me strength. With him by my side, I turned to Kevin and Dad and spoke words I had long held back. I've spent my whole life suppressing my feelings, thinking if I just endured, everything would work out. I paid off the mortgage for Dad, covered Kevin's tuition because he was abandoned by his mom, and lived for my family. But I don't deserve to be treated like this. From now on, I'm done. I'm selling this house and won't be paying any more tuition. I'm going to live my life freely. For the first time, I told them clearly that I would cut ties and no longer provide any financial support. It might have been the first time I had ever expressed my feelings so openly. Dad hung his head in defeat, his shoulders slumped, but Kevin was different. Perhaps his pride was wounded, knowing the person he had looked down on had been supporting him out of pity because he was abandoned by his mom.
Thanks for paying my tuition all this time. Not many people would go that far, but you were stupid enough to do it. Actually, I've already got a job offer. It's from a well-known local company with great benefits, so I'm set for life. I'll be just fine once I'm out in the real world. I can handle things on my own.
Kevin tried to act tough. This was the first time I'd heard he had his job offer, but I knew the company he was talking about. Hey, could that company you got an offer from be? I mentioned the name of a company I had in mind.
Yeah, that's the one. Even someone as clueless as you has probably heard of it. It's a big name company, not something a high school grad like you could ever get into.
Kevin responded smugly, but Mike and I exchanged surprised looks. That company? That's Mike's company. He's the CEO. You didn't even know the face of the CEO at the company where you got a job offer? Kevin couldn't hide his shock at my words.
What? Your boyfriend is the CEO?
Sorry for the late introduction. I'm dating Jessica with the intention of marriage.
Mike introduced himself to my dad and Kevin. The moment Kevin realized Mike was the CEO, he suddenly changes his attitude.
Actually, I was just worried about Jessica. She's getting older and still hadn't settled down, so I thought pushing her out of the house might help. It seems I was right. I'm glad to see she's finally getting married, and as her brother, I'm relieved. And who knows, maybe once you two are married, I could be in line to be the next CEO.
Kevin said this with a laugh, clearly trying to cozy up to Mike. Talk about a change of heart.
Mike, let's keep helping each other.
Kevin said this to Mike, extending his hand for a handshake. But Mike responded to Kevin with these words.
Sorry, but you're not the kind of person we want at our company. We value the character of our employees, and clearly, our hiring department made a mistake selecting someone like you. I'll be sure to speak with HR. Your job's offer is rescinded.
What?
And both of you, think about all the trouble you've caused Jessica and the horrible things you've said to her. You owe her a sincere apology.
Dad and Kevin stood there in stunned silence. Leaving them behind, Mike and I walked out of that house. As we were leaving, they desperately tried to apologize and stop us. But my mind was already made up. No matter how much they apologized, I wasn't going to forgive them. After leaving that house, I began the process of selling it. Luckily, a buyer was found quickly, and Dad and Kevin had to move out right away. Since I cut ties with them, I don't know what happened to them after I left that house. From what I've heard from a neighbor, they rented a small, cheap apartment nearby and moved in together. Without a job and worried about living alone, Dad seems to have decided he had no choice but to rely on Kevin, so the two of them now live together. However, since they both depended on my money all this time, they don't have much savings. With no steady income, they couldn't afford new furniture or appliances in their new apartment. Apparently, Dad went around the neighborhood asking if anyone had unwanted appliances they could give him. Kevin, needing to pay for his own tuition now, took on multiple jobs, working both day and night. Rumor has it that he's close to failing and might have to repeat a year because he's been working so much that he doesn't have time to sleep. They have been living off my money and enjoying themselves all this time. I'm sure they're finally realizing just how hard it is to earn money. Because of his age, Dad has struggled to find a new job and is getting by on temporary day labor. However, the tabs he ran up at the pubs he used to frequent have piled up, and now he's scrambling to pay them off. I feel for him, but at the same time, it's his own fault. Today, I'm still using the laptop Kevin threw away that day, working hard as always. When I told Mike about what happened, he immediately contacted the junk removal service, and they were able to find it for me. That laptop is an essential tool for my work. I was truly relieved when the laptop was safely returned to me. Now, without Dad or Kevin causing me any more trouble, I can focus on work better than ever, and I finally have time for myself. Mike's company is also doing great, and we're both busy with work. In the midst of our hectic schedules, we've been making time to visit wedding venues together. Yes, we're getting married in 3 months. With our wedding coming up, we've been busy meeting with the planner and picking out my wedding dress. But despite the chaos, I'm happier than I've ever been. It's the first time I've dedicated this much time to myself. I'm finally living my own life. And now I'm starting a new chapter with the man I love.